So how about a story then? You know, I've got one that comes from where I grew up near Boone, North Carolina, up in the northwest mountains of the state. There's a mountain just above Boone called Snake Mountain. And on Snake Mountain, there's a big swag between it and the next little mountain over. In that swag back in the old days, they used to talk about a little boy named Wiley that lived up there with his mama. Now, Wiley's mama, she was what in those days and times? They called her a conjure woman. She did magic. But you know now, let me tell you, she didn't do bad magic. She did good magic. She helped people. See, there was another fellow lived up on that mountain, and he was a bad man. He did bad magic. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he's what happened to Wiley's daddy. And they called him the hairy man. Now, one day, Wiley's mama called Wiley. She said, Wiley, she said, come on in the house here. He came in the house, and he said, yeah, Mama. She said, Wiley, I want you to go down to the blackberry patch and pick me a batch of berries. And Wiley said, okay, Mama, I will. She said, but Wiley, now, don't you take your dogs with you. Because I know you, if you take your dogs, you'll piddle and play and get half the berries picked in twice the time. Wiley said, but Mama, if I don't take my dogs with me, that old hairy man might get me. My dog's is the only thing he's scared of. She said, oh, Wiley. She said, here. And she took a glass of milk and put it on the table. And she reached up above her and she went, whoo, and conjured it. She said, there now, Wiley, see that glass of milk? If it turns red, I'll know the hairy man's after you. And I'll go outside, I'll untie your dogs, and they'll come run that old hairy man off. Wiley said, but Mama. She said, now, Wiley. So Wiley had to go. And sure enough, he tied up his dogs, he picked up a basket his mama had made, and he went down to the berry patch and sat down. And he commenced into picking berries, and he picked and picked. Oh, and he picked and picked and picked and picked and picked. Till sure enough, he picked twice as many berries in half the time and picked that basket plumb full, mostly because he's scared to death of that hairy man. Well, Wiley had just finished filling that basket up and was reaching down to pick it up when he heard somebody behind him in the woods step on a stick. It went snap! Wiley heard that. He went climbing up a tree like a squirrel, sat down on a limb, looked down, and you know who was there? A hairy man. And that hairy man looked down at Wiley, looked up at Wiley, and he said, hey, Wiley, what you doing? Wiley said, oh, hello, Mr. Hairy Man. I've been picking some berries. What you doing? Old hairy man said, I'm hungry, Wiley. Wiley said, well, you want some berries? Hairy man said, no berries, Wiley. But I might cook and eat you. And back home, that glass of milk turned blood red. And Wiley's mama, she seen it, sure enough. She went outside, she untied Wiley's dogs. Now, let me tell you something. There was one thing in this world Wiley's dogs loved best of all, and that was Wiley. And when they got free, they started taking big sniffs on there. They would, they took sniffs on the ground and figured out which way Wiley had gone, and they took off down the road after him, hollering every step. And way off down the road, that old hairy man heard them dogs. Off in the distance. Now, remember what I said, there wasn't but one thing he was scared of. Dogs. And when he heard them dogs, he said, uh-oh, Wiley. Dogs. Dogs. I gotta go. I'll get you later, okay? And he went running off, and about that time, the dogs ran around the curve in the road and spied that hairy man. They went to chasing him and chased him 37 miles. It sure did. Well, Wiley, he climbed down out of that tree. He went and picked up his basket, ran home, and told his mama what all happened. She said, Wiley, looky there. You got that basket plumb full of berries, twice as many in half time, because you wasn't piddling and playing with those dogs. Big old pretty berries, too, Wiley. You know, that worked so well, I think we'll put you doing the same thing again tomorrow, honey. He said, Baba. She said, now, Wiley. And she made him go the next day again. And sure enough, he went. He got down there. He'd tied his dogs up. He sat down on that very same stump he'd sat the day before. Reached up to pick his first berry. And that's when he heard behind him in the woods another stick go snap. And up that tree he went again. And of course, he sat down on the limb, turned around, looked down, and there was a hairy man. That hairy man looked up Wiley. He said, hello, Wiley. I'm still hungry. And back home, that glass of milk, sure enough, it turned blood red. But there was a problem, you see, because Wiley's mama had gone down to the creek to get some water to do the wash, which meant there wasn't nobody there to see that glass of milk turn red, and there wasn't nobody there to turn them dogs loose. Wiley, he waited and he listened, but his dogs never did come. And he looked down and saw that hairy man reach up and grab that tree like he's going to start climbing up it. And Wiley knew he was in trouble. He said, Mr. Hairy Man. Mr. Hairy Man! Oh, no! Mr. Hairy Man! And that hairy man stepped back. He said, what, Wiley? Wiley said, Mr. Hairy Man, I understand you're pretty good at conjuring. That old hairy man says, I'm the best conjurer in the forest, Wiley. Wiley said, I bet you can't make rope appear everywhere. And that old hairy man didn't even slow down. He just throwed his arms out the side, throwed his head back, started hollering, rope, rope, lots of rope. And all of a sudden there was rope everywhere. There was rope in the trees and the bushes and laying all over the ground, plumb far as you could see. Well, Wiley, he said, that's pretty good. He said, but I bet you can't make the rope everywhere disappear now. And that old hairy man, once again, he just throwed out his arms. He said, rope everywhere disappear. And all that rope he conjured disappeared. And the rope on the ground disappeared. And the rope holding Wiley's pants disappeared. Yeah, holding them up. And you know what else disappeared? That rope holding those dogs at Wiley's house. And time those dogs realized they's free. They took a sniff on the air. They said, and down the road they went, hollering for Wiley every step. Well, that old hairy man heard them dogs coming. He said, Wiley dogs, oh, I'll get you yet, you just wait and see. He went running, and them dogs this time chased him 57 miles. Well, Wiley jumped down out of that tree. He grabbed up his basket. He went running home and told his mama what all had happened. She said, oh, no, Wiley. Oh, I was wrong. I should never have made you go without your dogs. And I never will again either. She said, but Wiley, you've tricked that hairy man twice in a row now. You know, if we trick him one more time, for the third time, he's got to leave us alone forever. That's the way it works. She said, this is what we'll do. And she went to whispering in Wiley's ear. Well, the thing about it was, though, that night, in the middle of the night, about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, the front door of their cabin creaked open. And in the door walked a hairy man. He looked over and there was Wiley's mama sitting over there in front of the fireplace, in front of a rocking chair. And he looked, oh, and there was Wiley. He was in the bed with the covers pulled plumb up over top of his head. That old hairy man watched Wiley's mama, crept over to Wiley, stuck his hand underneath them covers and grabbed Wiley by the neck, jerked him out from under there, and swallowed Wiley whole. But all of a sudden, Wiley's mama jumped up out of the rocking chair, and Wiley, his own self, jumped out of the attic. And they both said, hello, Mr. Hairy Man. Hairy Man said, Wiley, I thought I just ate you. What did I eat? Wiley said, well, you ate a little baby doll full of very hot rocks. Hairy Man said, hot rocks? Oh, my tongue. Oh, no. That's 3 times you tricked me, Wiley. I'll never see you, never no more. And out the door that old hairy man went. And you know, sure enough, that was the very last time Wiley or his mama was ever bothered by the hairy man. And last I heard, they lived pretty happily right ever after that. That's the way that would go.